Hey, welcome to the Caminota Show. This episode, we're joined by quite the wide range. I was just reviewing Lisa Kirkwood, by the way, Lisa's bio, and I was going to say, well, she's this, and this, but then I looked at her bio, and she's this, and that, and this, and that, and that. Man, world renowned and a woman of very many talents. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, great to have you. With all these things that you have listed, from entrepreneur to storyteller to the one that one of my favorites that I must have missed when we were talking the other day, crafty woodsmith. How did you get into doing sci-fi with all these sort of things going on in your life?
Well, it's how do I say, a long story, but I'll try to condense it, put it in a nutshell. I've been having issues, especially lately, with a certain segment of coaches that tell you need to focus on just one thing. And I cannot really be boxed in. If I'm a photographer, I'm a writer, a crafty wordsmith, content creator, author, filmmaker, and whatever else I can fit in there, and I can do them all well and be happy with the results of my work, that's what I'm going to do. I don't like the niching part or the boxing in part. I'd rather be, a jack of many trades and master of some. This is how I would describe myself. As far as the sci-fi, it goes way back because I realized in early childhood that I was born with the gift of storytelling. Just with my playmates and my friends, if I would tell them something, they would stop in their tracks and listen. It was about the way I was wording things together. So I only built on that throughout the years. And I started a decade-long endeavor of researching the sci-fi realm, especially space-time traveling aliens and UFOs. And the culmination of that was in 2017 when I published the first edition of the Terran Chronicles, A Voyager in Chronospace, which I don't know if you can see here.
No,
No, it's the background. Oh,
there
here
it
we go.
goes. Hold it in front of you. Hold it in front of
Okay,
you.
here we go.
Oh, it didn't work either.
Almost.
Nope, almost.
No.
Let me
Oh,
try.
you'll just have to put it, you'll have to send us a picture.
Okay. There's the book, but again, it's on
There's a book there.
yes, it's on Amazon, A Voyager in Chronospace. And if you Google me, it's gonna actually come up with the Kindle edition and the other social media information that I have on my profile. But in 2017, I published this book, and last year I actually merchandised some of the content of the sci-fi series because the purpose is to have it turned into a Hollywood-style movie series about space-time traveling aliens and UFOs. So to that end, I'm also working to release my first short film in this series. It's called Odyssey of the Space-Time Travelers, and it's gonna go on YouTube in the next couple of weeks. I'm just putting the finishing touches on that. Is in post-production, just adjusting here and there certain things. But yeah, long story short, this would be my journey up until now.
I'm really curious. You mentioned recognizing that gift of storytelling early on. When did you find that passion for sci-fi? And because I know there's usually like a one specific, show or movie or book for a lot of people have with these type of things. Is there one thing that really drew you into the sci-fi genre?
It is. It's interesting because for the longest time, my favorite genre to this day and to the last day I breathe is actually fantasy, which is not far from sci-fi. But sci-fi itself, not until later on in life, I would say, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, that I started. I had been into fantasy before that. But I read a book of short stories, sci-fi short stories back in Romania, my homeland. And one of them was the story of a young kid from the future who travels through space-time, trying to alter the course of his life and also change the history on Earth. So that really triggered this whole journey, because I started doing research and I realized this is a vast topic. And the more I was researching, the more questions popped up and more themes and more topics and more interesting stuff to explore. So it took me about 3 decades to sift through all this pile of information in various domains, and then it crossed into environmental issues, because the Terran Chronicles is about Terra, planet Earth, and how we're going to keep it for ourselves and for future generations. And then there's also stuff on border sciences, things that modern medicine or science or technology does not have access to or can't explain yet. Futuristic medicine and all sorts of alternative things or innovative concepts that as of now are not present. But again, in a sci-fi work, all of this stuff is not only possible, it's actually largely used. So it's only time will tell, literally, how wide can this become and how many of the gadgets and things and technologies described in the Terran Chronicles will actually be part of everyday life, say 100 years from now, the same way Star Trek inventions in the movie, they actually became part of everyday life. And my aim when I created this series, if I am to describe it, what is it like? What is it comparable to? It's comparable to Dune, Stargate, and Star Trek. So this is how I would present it to Hollywood parties or interested investors or general public, because this is what it is.
It makes me think of one of my favorite shows is Futurama, 1,000 years in the future. And one of my favorite little throwaway jokes they have in that is where they have all of the old people are batteries, like in the Matrix, that they use to power everything. And they're like, oh yeah, well, that Matrix idea from 1,050 years ago was perfect, actually. We just took us all this time to figure it out, and how it's these technologies. And that's the funny example of it. But I think that's the really interesting thing about the genre, is that it's all from a very real place. You're taking where research is now and only taking it a few steps further. And how long it takes us to actually reach that point is a bigger question. But to extrapolate to that point logically and in theory, there is a really fun area to play around with. So I could see the pull for the sci-fi section.
Oh yeah, and similarities, it's always good to draw on something that people are familiar with. However, the main point of my series is that is not placed into a dystopian future. And no, we're not going to be half robots. We're not going to be powered by batteries. We're not going to be like the green product, Soylent Green or something super dystopian. We're going to be in trouble. No, this is not it. This is a really bright future where planet Earth has been admitted in the Galactic Council of the Milky Way. And people of planet Earth are equal galaxy citizens with all the rights and responsibilities of a galactic citizen. So we travel through space and times, we travel to Andromeda Galaxy, we travel back to our past, although past, present, and future are basically a relative notion, according to Einstein and other brilliant people. But the main thing about traveling in space-time is not only that it's available and readily accessible, but people can travel not just for fun, to see, for instance, a live battle or history of an invention. There is also the possibility of changing the past for the common good of the present and the future. So this is what the series offers as a novelty, and it opens up a whole new range of possibilities, because if you are to go back in time to at least avoid some of your past mistakes, would that be worth it? I would say the answer is yes, because I personally would go back and fix a few things here and there my own self. So this is the purpose of the whole series, but it's taken in a global context because we're all part of one unified species of planet Earth. And we, not only on a selfish purpose, let me change my mistakes, but I realized that my mistakes or the course of my life actually affects other people. And let's all work together towards a common goal and improve things for our mutual benefit.
That's great. And that was something I was thinking. I heard you say it early on, and you've kind of reemphasized it, but the tie back to taking care of the earth, man, how did I word it? I can't remember how I worded it, but that sense of doing good by Mother Earth and taking care of it. And I'm just wondering, where's that tie come from, and preserving, I guess, our natural resources, maybe was what I was thinking.
That also came naturally because I grew up actually in a village in Romania. The first 7 years of my life before I went to the city to attend school were spent in the village. And I grew up with the love for the earth, for the living things, for plants, for birds, for animals. So that was really easy because it's a value that was instilled in me. I appreciate it many years later, especially now, say we're fighting these chemicals in our foods. I remember when I was a child, this was not an issue. All the food was naturally farmed, organic and healthy. So I'm like, why can't we, I don't know about going back to that kind of lifestyle, but why can't we acknowledge it and re-implement it? Because some of these new modern ways have been doing so much damage, more harm than good. Then why can't we acknowledge the environment and Mother Nature for what it is, and actually mend our ways, just clean up after ourselves, clean our food, clean our air, our environment, and even our mindset. Understand that the earth is a living, breathing being with a soul, and treat it as such because it's the mother of us all. We all live on this earth. So yeah, that goes way back.
I think what that makes me think a lot of, and it's super interesting, is, when you talk about, to put it broadly into the kind of the context of your books there, of, the future of the planet and reaching, something positive, not a dystopian future, like you were saying, and like, how do we reach that point? What other crisis we're talking about, and climate change, those type of things, agriculture, there's a lot of problems, and all these different things. One of the concepts I've heard thrown around a lot is that you have these like two camps as far as how to move forward with it. You have the wizard and you have the prophet. And the prophet says, go back to 200 years ago before this is even a problem. And, go back and be, we can all dress like the Amish and, get rid of electricity and all these type of things. And, go all the way back. And then the wizard is this, oh, everything will be okay. We'll just invent our way out of this. And I think that the realistic approach and what's, most likely moving forward is probably a mix of those. And I love that because that's what you're touching on, Lisa. And I love that, especially with my ag background. And I'm going to try to stop myself from nerding out too much on this. But it's one of those things where you can go back and you can learn so many lessons from these really great things that, we weren't polluting, we weren't doing all this kind of stuff. And then you can also look at the efficiencies that we've had where it's like, hey, we're also feeding way more people. And you can find a future that touches on both of those schools of thought. And so I really love that you're bringing that approach to it. And then I love how you have explored that through your series.
Yes. And I'm glad what I noticed lately, I'm glad I'm not the only one. That would be really sad in this endeavor. A lot of people realize that this environmental concern is a real issue. And on multiple plans, they address it in different ways. But the general common goal is to actually clean up our planet and ourselves, because we're all in this together.
If you could go back and, the time machine and change one thing, what would that be?
That would be a very good question. Not date my first boyfriend. Just kidding.
I gotta say, before you get the real answer, we might have to go around in a circle on this one.
Oh no, I thought that's great, because here she is. I find that super funny, because here she is talking about being this great thing for Mother Earth, and then the one thing she wants to go back and change is don't date that guy.
Yeah, no, it's good as a joke. That would be one thing that I would change would be my mindset, because if I were a little more open to more possibilities, I would have avoided a lot of struggles. And that, ranging from academics to family to personal to whatever. So I would say a healthier mindset would have avoided many of these issues. And yes, for that alone, it would be worth the travel, a trip back in time. And let's see, I don't know if the camera would cooperate, but if I stand up, can you see my t-shirt here?
Yes.
Yes. Oh,
Okay, this
Right
is
there.
where I stand. The Terran Chronicles, a Voyager in Chronospace. So this is a t-shirt that you'll find online if you type Voyager in Chronospace shopping. And this design says, keep calm and travel through space-time. So yeah, everything that has a brand that says the Star Voyager or a UFO on the lower side, this is actually the Terran Chronicles brand. And the purpose is to create brand awareness and connect with large audiences who are fans of planet Earth, of science fiction, space-time traveling aliens and UFOs. So we build a tribe, a group, a community, and with brand awareness and widespread message, we can actually make these into a successful Hollywood-style movie series, starting with the short films that will be released on YouTube. The first one is Odyssey of the Space-Time Travelers, and all the others that deal with aliens and Terrans, with history as a concept, Mother Earth, and some other themes that are present throughout the series. But yeah, and not only this, but let's see if you see, there's also a mug that comes with it, Voyager in Chronospace. I have stickers. There are all kinds of merchandise pieces. Let's see if you see this one. This one says, love your planet. Terra, it's your world. So all of this that has this that have the Star Voyager brand are part of the Terran Chronicles. And what I did here was re-engineer the classical process of movie making, because in Hollywood, you would first launch a movie, and then if it catches on, you come up with merchandise. Thankfully, and I don't know if this is due to COVID or a combination of factors, lately the audiences have to be engaged on a different level. And you can put the cart ahead of the horses and re-engineer the whole process, which I did. I started with the merchandise, and then I'll release the short films, because it's a lot easier when you're talking about a visual medium such as this to present to people an image. This is what it is. Okay, it's a t-shirt with a UFO that says keep calm and travel through space-time. Okay, so the beauty of modern day commerce and technology is that merchandise on demand has allowed so much flexibility and openness globally, because back in the days you had to buy stock and stock it and hope that is going to sell. Nowadays it's only printing and selling on demand, where whenever somebody is interested in buying a product, there is no stocking fee, no stuff like that. And with the current platform, the main one that produces my merchandise, which is Redbubble, believe it or not, they print and ship in 180 countries plus in the world. This is available not only in the United States, but throughout the world. So if you look for the Terran Chronicles, a Voyager in Chronospace shopping, and you click on any of the products and say you want to purchase a coaster for your cup, or the cup itself, or a t-shirt, they actually print and ship within like 24 hours. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. They have a really well-established network of local sellers and suppliers that will fulfill the demand for the products. Over 180 countries, guaranteed delivery, guaranteed quality. And that's the most beautiful part about this all, because it eliminates a lot of the middle costs and a lot of cuts on costs and time, really. So the people are they are given the chance to have the merchandise available when they want it, and at a really affordable price.
Well, what I'm hearing, which I think is really interesting and fits in really well with what we talk about, is the entrepreneur side of it. So where did the business, I mean, because it's one thing to create a story and this beautiful picture. Most people who do that hand that off to somebody. You've got it all in this package. You've already got this plan, this vision with merchandise and everything like that. Where did this entrepreneurial sense come from? You know, it's like I said, most people who create a story do just that. They create a story and they hand it off. You've got a lot of business sense going on. So where did that develop?
Well, again, jack of many trades, master of some. It's like the Hollywood interviews or the newspaper or media celebrity. Oh, that's an overnight success. There is so much blood, sweat, and tears that goes into this whole process. Sometimes it's not even funny, but you learn things as you go. Granted, the entrepreneurship gene runs in the family. I come from a very independent, well-to-do family in Romania, where women always had this entrepreneurial spirit, always managing finances, building small businesses on the side, running smooth household, making sure everybody's fed and everybody's is well on their feet. So that is inherited. As far as the rest of the equation, I wanted to make movies since I was 13 years old. So I started researching Hollywood, and once I got to the United States, I read heavy-duty literature on Hollywood and how they run the business. To this day, I read about 60 books, 60, and counting, on Hollywood. The fun part is the business has changed so much, a lot of those books are already obsolete, but it bears to say that I'm a person that does not quit easily. And, along the way, you pick up a few things and a few concepts, and then you apply them. For example, the merchandise, I started, I merchandised last year, so to speak, shortly before Christmas. But learning to do the designs, I'm working with a really talented graphic artist who's also doing my videos, and how to actually navigate between different platforms, because in order to optimize the shopping experience, I had to test different shopping platforms until I settled with Redbubble, because this is the first thing that pulls up in the Google search. So if you search a Voyager in Chronospace shopping, this is what's going to pull up. And I know it's a mouthful, but if you think about Space Voyager and then chronology and space, that's where it comes. Chronospace, a Voyager in Chronospace. So that gives you an idea of the time of a time traveler. And this is what the first short film is, Odyssey of the Space-Time Travelers. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. And what I find interesting, to stay in the business sense, is that thought process of doing that. And really, what I'm hearing is the marketing plan before you push the product out. And that's a great business lesson, because you have a plan. Here's my products, I'm releasing this. You did some research on how to best way to distribute or sell some supporting items, even before you do the main release of the first video and the short video in the series. So that's a great idea. I love that. And I think most people will glance over that because they're thinking, oh, this is just sci-fi stuff, but really it's a great business plan. So what I'm also interested in is, as you do this and as you release videos, did you create like milestones in that, where, hey, when video 1 hits this many views, we release video 2, or are you doing it in time sequence, or how? What's your thought process on that?
I'm glad you asked, because again, this is one of the things that I learn as I go. Because, for instance, my graphic designer and videographer is at the other side of the world in South Asia. So it's interesting because you work with a team of people. The narrator, for example, for the video is based in the US. I'm based in Los Angeles. And I have a close connection with the entertainment industry because I co-manage a talent agency in Los Angeles that represents talent like actors, directors, writers, producers. So I have my finger on the pulse of the industry. as far as the business itself, it makes economic sense because lately, since I've been campaigning to advertise this project, which is basically an entertainment product, and that was created as a response to the overused, dusty old franchises that are there. And this is one of the reasons why Hollywood is losing so much money lately, and the audiences to alternative entertainment, because give me something new, for God's sake, some new content. So I came up with the new content, and
You almost made me spit my water out with that.
Yeah, because
For
this
God's
is what
sake,
it
give me
is.
something new.
Something new. Say, for instance, Netflix. Netflix directly competes with the traditional movie studio system. So does YouTube, because again, they offer something new that people want to tap into and binge on watching. When it came to this point and further on, I've been speaking with a number of people who might be potentially interested in supporting or somewhat financing the project as a movie. And when you interview with those people and you present a business plan, you better have your T's crossed and your I's dotted, because sometimes you only get one chance. So if you are to prepare a package, you got to show for something. So you have first the intellectual property, you have the publication on Amazon. That's one. Then you have the merchandise. Then you have the short film. Then you have a community. I created a small Facebook group called the Star Voyager, where people can connect in relation to this project and connect with myself. And just prepare this as a package, not just leave it to random, to hazard and see what's going to happen. You got to be prepared, because if you want to see this project and shepherd it from inception to completion, you are going to work in a team, and not everybody can see the vision in your head. You have to present it to images, statistics, business plans, profits, and all that kind of stuff. So it's actually imperative for the success of such an endeavor, especially on a new project that I'm trying to launch, especially one of that magnitude, which is huge, because a Voyager in Chronospace, it's only the first part of the Terran Chronicles. So I have 3 more coming in the form of like 4 main feature films, and however many shorts and derived works on the side, like derived books, like Dune Head or Star Wars Head, or all of those things. So it's just a cog in a wheel. We have a lot of pieces moving together in unison, in harmony. And that's not to say there are no hiccups on the way, but as I learn as I go. And again, you implement that lesson to the next step and next plan, so you have a sound and feasible business plan for a movie financing.
One thing that I think would be really interesting to dive in on, because I think it's such an interesting change that you can see inside of the industry and the business of streaming, is how, if you go back, especially like, pre any of the streaming, just to, regular TV, it's you only have these certain amount of spots that you're competing for, where, like prime time, maybe back in your day, Dad, 10 channels, something like that. But 3 channels. So you got your 2 channels that are running at prime time, 7 to 9, that 2-hour slot. It's a very tight window of competing. And the nice thing, as things have grown, is you're getting more and more content out there for more and more people. But I think there's an interesting other side to that change, which is that when there's only the 2-hour slot, everyone's at home watching I Love Lucy. Everyone's watching the same thing. And that's how you measure your success, is everyone watching it. Now in the streaming times, it's completely different, where it's not necessarily, did everyone go watch this show last night? It's, okay, how many times did you watch this show? How many times have you rewatched it? Are you finishing the entire thing? And that's where I think, the sci-fi and fantasy and those type of genres are really going to thrive. And among with some other ones, is because you're able to hit your niche market and then maximize your profits in that area, rather than hitting everybody anymore. And I think it creates this really interesting, different industry, which it sounds like you are already touching on, Lisa, how you need to have the merchandise and all those things to create that almost like cult following, and really breed that, because that's almost the new measure of success, is a cult following. It's not whether everyone watches at 7 p.m. on Tuesday night. It's how many times are this section of people rewatching it, and how much are they talking about it, and how much merchandise are they buying, and all these type of things. It creates a very different market. Is that something that you've seen and led to this this type of a slightly different business plan and approach for you, Lisa?
Yes, I was carefully watching the market trends. I did the business plan in 2018 just for practice. I was hoping to advance the timetable of the movie, but again, it happens when it happens. And revisiting that business plan, I see so many things have changed in just a span of 3 years. You got to be up to date and keep up with all the tendencies, because again, the old models and systems and business plans do not work anymore. You have to adapt to the current market trends, and now people consume entertainment and content through all their pores. It's not like from 7 to 9 p.m. Everywhere you turn, there's some content. You pick up your phone, you stream a movie, or you watch a song on YouTube, or you turn on the TV and you binge on Netflix. Everywhere you go, everywhere you turn. So this was based not only on a thorough analysis of the old tendencies, but also on the newest market trends and how people react and respond to this need of entertainment, and quality entertainment and new content, as opposed to stuff that's been there, already seen. It's getting boring. Take, for example, the Star Wars, that arguably is the most successful franchise to date. And if you put like a few more other franchises together, they haven't made the same impact and income that Star Wars has done. But they hit a ceiling, for example, with Solo. When they released Solo, it did so poorly compared to the other movies. And that's because people have reached a level of oversaturation. It's a thing that was great. It's generational entertainment, but there comes a point where you need something new, exciting, quality, and you're going to look for it. And people are going to turn to alternate forms of entertainment, like new platforms such as YouTube and Netflix and whatever else comes out. It's not restricted to this. For instance, they tried to test Quibi, which was supposed to be a challenger to YouTube, but that didn't quite stick to the market. So you never know what's going to come up tomorrow, but you need to be prepared, because people will consume entertainment. Say TikTok, they only have less than 1 minute video. People watch those like crazy. You need to cater to those market needs.
Which is really an interesting thing, and maybe start thinking about, well, as you, because you've done, I love what you've done on the business side. That's what really I find fascinating. There's some other things I've really got to ask you a couple other questions too. But the thing that I'm finding interesting and I'm wondering about is how do you prepare your product for these different venues, whether it's YouTube, Venmo, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all these different things, because you can't just take that your one show, your box, if you will, because, oh, by the way, you don't go into a box. So you can't take that one box of your show, the Odyssey of the Space-Time Travelers, and use it across the board. So how are you doing that and still targeting your audience, if you will?
Oh, that's easy. You have to be flexible and really study the market. Because, for instance, okay, the video goes on upload on YouTube. It's going to be about 8.5 minutes long, the latest estimate that I'm doing in post-production. This first video, the other ones that are in the series, most of them would be maybe half that long. I try to keep them under 10 minutes. So you go with that on YouTube, and YouTube is fine with even full-length movies. You can also post it on Facebook. Facebook is also fine with posting a link and people are redirected to YouTube. But if you're trying to do the same thing on TikTok, you need to mind your business, because TikTok only has so much time window that they allow. You have something within 1 minute, and you better keep it to 1 minute. So what you're gonna do, just chop it up, make a series of small videos, or just stick to one or two that you're gonna adapt to that platform. And it goes the same with any other platform, really. Just look at the requirements, because you're not going to go, to guerrilla warfare with just a knife, a kitchen knife in your pocket. It's not going to work. So you have to research the market and the market needs.
All right. The other thing that I'm always fascinated by, and you're right. When I was now I think it was maybe middle school or high school, I read Dune. What a fascinating story, and just the whole visual aspects of it. The first movie was terrible. Hopefully the second one will do a much better job. But the thing I'm always fascinated by is the ability to follow the storyline and keep that accurate. And I just is that just the way your mind works? Do you have a process? Because it blows my mind, the accuracy that, like, on page 1 you can say and describe this, and page 528 of the third book they match. How the heck do you do that?
It's a creative process. It works well with creative individuals such as myself. Not everyone has this gift. It is a gift. It helps that I'm also a multilingual and multicultural person, and I can tap into stories from multiple countries in the world. So it's one of those things that you're either born with it or you build on and acquire, but it's always helpful if it's an innate talent, and mine was. Because yes, when you deal with such a huge quantity of material, you want to make sure that you sync it up, because you have a UFO that is triangle shaped for the main character on page 5, and then you turn around on page 80, it's round shaped or oval. That's not cool. Maybe it's one of those small things that it can escape through the cracks, but then again, you have to keep tabs on it. This is only the first part of the series. If you keep doing blunders after blunders, people notice them. But something, even that is not the end of the world, because I'm a huge fan of The Lord of the Rings. This is the absolute fantasy project of all times. Nothing could beat it. I have it in my mind to actually try to make a fantasy movie, to at least try to rival it. But again, that's a very ambitious goal. So it's interesting, many years after the movie wrapped, people on YouTube were creating videos, things that were out of sync or did not make much sense in Lord of the Rings. And it's interesting because I saw that movie and each part of the trilogy tens of times, and I never noticed those blunders. Never. I was so immersed into the movie, and not only me, but the director, the crew, and it counted by hundreds, if not thousands, people in New Zealand filming it. Nobody noticed those, but the critics noticed those years later after the movie wrapped. So it's it's a give and take. You want to make sure you keep your ducks in a row, but if something falls through and it's just one small thing and people still connect with the brand and the message and they love it, in the long run, it's not going to matter that much. Unless, of course, you're a movie critic and this is how you make your living, and you got to throw some tomatoes over there and see what happens.
I think that touches back to what we were saying earlier about, the changing business around TV and media, and with the streaming changes, is that having that depth of understanding of the continuity, like you were talking about, Dad, from the first episode all the way to the 100th episode, and those little things, those are that kind of depth to the story is what pulls people in and then gives that rewatch quality, which is, one of the metrics for success now. And one other aspect of that I think is inherent to your type of writing that I think we could really extrapolate to the business side here is when you talk about, and I know we were saying it's not a dystopian future, but when you talk about extrapolating to the future at all, you're looking at especially with like the time travel and those type of things of changing the past and those type of things. You're looking at second order, third order, fourth order, fifth order, all the way out to thousandth order of effect of these type of things. So I would love if you could take us through a little bit of your process for that extra orders of effect for, for example, of the going back in time to, everyone always says the go back in time to kill Hitler. It's like, okay, well, what is the thousandth order of effect of that? And is it a good idea or a bad idea? How do you get through that creative process? Because I think if we can pass that on to entrepreneurs, that is quite the skill there that for people to take into their business.
Very, very complex question, interesting, and thank you for asking that. Because yes, what you brought up is what we call in sci-fi the grandfather paradox. You go back in time to kill your grandfather, but how else would you be born? The nature of the holographic universe, because we do live in a holographic universe, allows for not only for space-time traveling, but for changing in the chronospace structure, chronoplasma. This is a word that I created with the series. Chronoplasma is the substance of space-time, matter, and energy. I got into some of the technical stuff when I got into the depth of the creative journey, but there are ways to harness this immense force. So if you think that one facet will affect everything else in a domino effect, that may or may not be true, depending on the nature of space-time at that particular point. So yeah, if you are set to go back in time and prevent World War II, by all means, get yourself a nice quality UFO, because that's what these vehicles are. They are time traveling vehicles. Get yourself one of those and have at it. There is also an authority to oversee the space-time travelers. So in my series, there is some sort of an airport or a spaceport. This is called the Chronospace Station. So all the chronospace travelers that travel into a time other than their own course of life, they need to receive a clearance, which means an approval to travel or to change history. The one to change history is called chronoplastia, like plastic surgery, but this time you change the time, right? So to answer your question, anything is possible. So you can still prevent the beginning of World War II and a lot of horrors, but you're going to need approval, and you're going to do this within certain stricter parameters than if you were to travel to just see the Battle of Hastings in England 1066 or something. So these are different. There are different levels and quality standards for your chronospace trips.
Well, I think this would be a good time to circle back then, because I didn't want you to escape on this, Dad, of going back to one of the questions you asked Lisa of if you could travel back in time to one point or change history at one specific point, what would you pick? Because I do think that's the interesting thing there, Lisa, is you kind of touched on this is, okay, so, you go back and you kill Hitler to stop World War II. And then it turns out that the next guy up was 10 times worse, or it could have worked, or, there's this whole spectrum of possibilities there. So with that in mind, Dad, what would you go back and change?
Well, the philosophical answer would be nothing, because I'm very satisfied with where I am today and how the world has turned out. And if you went to change things, then that would be different. There's your philosophical approach. In the more humorous,
what's the fun one?
Yeah, the more fun is because of my background. Anytime I watch a war movie, whether it's like Gettysburg or any of the World War II movies, or you just name a war movie from history. I always have a hard time with it, because it's like, the outcome, and it's like, well, don't do that. And that's for me, that's where I always go. Black Hawk Down with Shugart and I drew a blank on the other guy's name, but with that story, is like, don't do this, because then you can prevent that, or just these little things that can happen. But what's really interesting about it is the old butterfly effect of in that theory of a butterfly flaps its wings in Bermuda and causes a hurricane, off the coast of Vietnam, and those sort of weird sort of things. But that's the whole concept of time travel, isn't it? And like you said, Lisa, the grandfather effect. So
I was gonna interject with this, Oris and Cam. I got news for you. You can actually do all these things. If you want to go and change the battle result, or not have the battle not happen in the first place, you can. Now, as far as the effects, what that's going to do for the overall course of history, that remains to be seen. Because again, within the rules of chronospace traveling and changing history, there are certain rules to be obeyed, and those are laid out in the SciFi series. But the main thing to take away is that now you can do anything in history. Just keep in mind it has to be non-selfish and non-destructive. So this would be the main rule. And also to keep in mind, if you were to do a quiz, because as we established, UFOs are space-time traveling vehicles. If you are to do a quiz, who are the occupants of the UFOs? A, people from other planets. B, people from other times. C, people from other dimensions. D, all of the above. What do you think the answer is?
The last one, D, all the above.
All of the above, you got it. So think about it. You have aliens from other planets, from different dimensions, from different times, people from the future, from our own Earth, from planet Jupiter, Venus, Mars, whatever. You have everyone who is doing space-time traveling, and all of them are allowed to create some sort of ripples in space and times. It goes as far into the sci-fi research I've done some of the accidents in history. For example, the crashing of that bridge in West Virginia. That happened shortly after the Mothman alien has been seen. That has been caused by a damage in the structure of space-time. It was improperly done. And it's interesting because, again, this was a malevolent alien, people who are familiar with the literature, and it's just too much of a coincidence that after he was seen, that accident happened, killing some tens of people. And it's interesting because that happened where even Richard Gere made a movie, The Mothman Prophecies. It's kind of spooky. I've seen it. But after a few tens of years, that whole spookiness disappeared. Now West Virginia boasts a local festival of the Mothman. It's like a county fair. People get together, sci-fi and alien fans or non-fans alike. They get together, they eat hot dogs, they party on behalf of an alien that was seen a few tens of years ago. And, it's just interesting modern culture built on that sort of sighting. And there are many of those throughout the world, but these people in West Virginia were very entrepreneurial and decided to capitalize on it. They even have a statue of the Mothman, the main character of the fair, and people just gathered there, and it's pretty cool. You can Google them. So I thought that was very interesting, making lemonade out of lemons.
That's that's great. I mean, there's your true philosophical life lesson is it's all about the choice, making lemonades out of lemons when that happens, right? Or making lemonade out of lemons. There we go. I did say it right. Wow. Yeah. Sometimes you hear your own voice and it's like, did I say that or did I not say that? Lisa,
I would love to get my time travel one out there because I took the time to write it down.
That's right. Yeah, go ahead, Camden.
Well, and actually, I love this because it was a thought I had, and then Lisa, the more you were talking, I was like, "Ooh, I might have got the right answer here." Because one of the things that came to mind, because my first thought with the go kill Hitler or any of those type of things would be the ripple might be worse, and like that kind of thought process. So what I thought, as something that's pure and for knowledge, would be to somehow stop Caesar from burning down the Library of Alexandria, and maybe we get maybe we'd all be a little bit smarter. I don't know what that would actually look like, be a couple hundred years further down the line or something, technology wise. But I thought that would be an interesting, a little bit more benevolent way of looking at it.
To your point, Cam, again, in the New Age literature, people who research or claim to research parallel dimensions, they actually claim that on a parallel Earth, Hitler actually won World War II. And I don't even want to think.
Not because of the Library of Alexandria or something,
not
right?
because of the library, to my knowledge, but again, anything is possible. But to your point, in a parallel universe or parallel dimension, what if the Führer actually won World War II? That would be trouble. Apparently, these people claim that it's possible in that parallel dimension. I just don't want to experience it. So they can have it, whoever goes there.
So if I stop Julius Caesar from burning down the Library of Alexandria, then when Hitler takes power, he can get a secret knowledge from the library and he wins the war. So okay, never mind. I'm gonna let him burn the library.
No. Wait, you're on the right track. What if you save the Library of Alexandria and there's no need to make experiments on living creatures after that, because we already have the knowledge that we preserve it. So that not only will save humanity scientifically, but will prevent all kinds of wars for technological advancement that were actually available back in ancient times in prehistory from the founders of planet Earth. So you're on the right track, Cam. Keep
there we go.
when the UFO is available and you can travel, by all means, have at it. You're gonna have fun.
Perfect.
The motto of the series is actually this: space-time traveling is now available. Where will you go first? Ooh. So you have all kinds of, it's kind of like the tagline when you have "May the Force be with you." I thought of a tagline for my series, and this is it: space-time traveling is now available. Where will you go first?
Oh, that's a good one. I think that's even better than what would you change, because there's so many different things with that. Now, I think
I'd rather watch than change. I think when I start thinking about this kind of stuff, I'd go back and just watch, like, oh, that's what it was like. That's interesting, and then come back and stay in my happy little existence.
There are many possibilities. Anything is possible. Exactly. So keep an eye out. I'll keep you posted when Odyssey of the Space-Time Traveler is posted on YouTube, and you can check it out. But in a nutshell, that is what it means to become a Star Voyager.
Oh, love it. And now shifting to what we learned, because man, when you think about time travel and the possibilities of what did you learn, and I've got several, from the very philosophical or somewhat philosophical to the really Camden, the Library of Alexandria. Okay, wow, you came out of that one. So I've got kind of a dual-hatted one. All right, son. Well done. Interesting. Right down to the one that Lisa said, you said right at the very beginning, was just, I always think is interesting, because we always try to tell everybody always says, and you even mentioned it, you got to focus on one thing. And you said, well, no, that doesn't work for me. So be who you are is the lesson, right? There's the reminder is, hey, if one thing doesn't work for you and you've got all these things that work for you, then do that. You don't have to have one. You can do it. You can do everything you want. I think that's the beautiful lesson right there. Camden, what'd you learn?
So this is an interesting one. Goes back to the spectrum of outcomes. I think we've talked about this in terms of planning for business. I know we've talked about it in terms of, the mental health side of things. And when you get anxious about something, it's because you're focusing on the most negative. And when you're overexcited, it's because you're focusing on the most positive. And in reality, it's somewhere in between there. And I love, and this is one of the things I think is so interesting about sci-fi and fantasy, is how you can explore these type of philosophical things in a much more real way of when you look at like the time travel and all these different concepts, it's all about the spectrum of outcomes. We've used the example of killing Hitler to try to prevent World War II, and we talked about every different direction that could have gone. That could be everything from there's peace on Earth for the last 70 years because of that, or it could have been the next guy up could have been way worse, or anything in between on that. And I think just thinking about life in terms of that spectrum of outcomes, I think is such a crucial way of understanding things, because if you focus too much on those poles of that spectrum, then you're going to wind up honestly probably depressed or disappointed most of the time. So you got to think about it as a full spectrum, I would say.
Good. Thank you. Lisa, what'd you learn?
What I learned is that people have a very personal understanding of what change, history, and personal freedom mean for each one of them. We all have different priorities, but in the end, if we keep things, if we want to change things for a non-selfish and non-destructive purpose, it's gonna work out because we're in this together. We're in it to win it. So let's win the day together as a human species, because this is what the overall message of my series is. I'm also an award-winning champion of diversity and inclusion in the corporate world. So this is how we bring everyone together, and everyone can relate. Granted, this is a sci-fi heavy themed message, but environmentalists can relate. People of technology and science can relate. Those who seek higher spirituality. I haven't even touched on those because it's such a complex thing. I know you can't really see this. Maybe now you can.
Yep.
The Terran Chronicles, A Voyager in Chronospace. Okay, and this is the hard copy. Right now it's only available in Kindle on Amazon. But the series itself is about 436 pages on the first part alone on A Voyager in Chronospace. The other 3 parts in the series are not going to be any less than that. So you're talking about the huge volume of content that spans like a wide peacock tail of themes and topics and things that people can relate to. So there's a little bit in there for everyone, mainly again, sci-fi fans, environmentalists, but a little bit for people of all walks of life. And again, this is a message of unity. Let's be together as one unified species. And the motto of the future Terra and the Terran species is together we stand as one.
I love it. Love it. Well, Lisa, remind us again. I mean, you just showed the book. What are the titles and dates that folks can expect the first edition to come out on YouTube, and then how to follow you?
Yes. So if you want to connect with me directly, you can find me on Facebook. Just look for the Star Voyager group and just ask to join the group. That's the easiest part. The first film comes out before the end of October on YouTube, again, because I want to make sure that the video quality is where it needs to be. And it's also gonna contain more information on the products that are available with the franchise itself. And meanwhile, again, A Voyager in Chronospace, this is actually a title that is very self-explanatory. And if you type it in and then followed by the word shopping, A Voyager in Chronospace shopping in the Google search tab, is gonna bring up all that stuff. So if you want to be at the vanguard of this futuristic movement, get your Chronospace gear on, get a t-shirt that says keep calm and travel through space-time, or love your planet, Terra, it's your world, and you're gonna join the movement. So be a pioneer, become a galactic traveler, become a Voyager in Chronospace.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Lisa. That's I love that, to be a vanguard of it. That's even better. So thank you again for your time today. We're excited to see this come out, and man, watch it grow. Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to today's show. Special thanks to our guest, Lisa Kirkwood, for joining us today, and our sponsor, Tribe and Purpose. Find your tribe, find your purpose. You can check out recent episodes of The Cam and Otis Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out a full archive at thecamandotisshow.buzzsprout.com. The Cam and Otis Show is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next week.